Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Build Series. I'm your host, Cole Delbick from HuffPost. Today, we're joined by actress and icon Molly Ringwald and director Melissa Miller Costanzo, who are here to talk about their new movie, All These Small Moments. It's a tender, coming-of-age dramedy set against the backdrop of a family in crisis that tells the story of a high schooler on the verge of adulthood. The film, which opens in theaters on Thursday, is Costanzo's first feature after years of working as an art director on projects like If Beale Street Could Talk, and gives us one of Ringwald's most complex and layered performances to date. Before we welcome them on stage, let's take a look at the trailer.
Simon, how many times do I have to tell you to stop doing that?
So where is Dad?
I don't know.
Oh, so that's it?
Maybe.
I've been a good dad, right? I went to t-ball games and school plays, right?
I don't think we were in any school plays.
What's with you anyway?
Tyler's obsessed with some 30-year-old.
You guys should see him in the morning. He spends hours in front of the mirror.
I'll find her. Oh, woman from the bus.
No idea.
Just go up there, dude.
Dad's definitely cheating on Mom.
Jesus.
What are you talking about?
Felicity Kavanaugh, I saw you sitting on the same side of the table.
Let me explain.
Okay, boys, that's enough. Your father and I obviously have some issues that we need to sort out, and we are taking the necessary steps.
I'm going through a really hard time right now. I'm in the middle of a divorce.
Can't we just go home?
Relationships are complicated.
Let's give it up for Molly and Melissa, everybody. Thank you so much both for being here. I watched the film a couple days ago, and it's so heartbreaking and heartwarming in all the right ways. So I can't wait for everybody to see it because I think it's going to be...
Gives you all the feels.
All the feels.
All the feels.
I think I teared up watching the trailer. I've seen this movie
How many times?
A lot.
I'd imagine you're familiar. Melissa, I want to start with you because this is your first feature as a director and a writer. So I'd love to hear about how All These Small Moments became a film, and was this sort of a story that you'd been itching to tell for a while now?
I mean, I think I do a lot of mulling around in my head to the point where sometimes people will call my name and I don't hear the first time because I think I'm very deep in my head. So I think there's just a lot of things that are happening in there, and I'm a married lady. I've been with my husband a long time, and marriage is tough, and I was a child once, and so there's all these things that I had been thinking about, and I think I just needed an outlet, and I think I started sort of writing stream of consciousness. That there's so much I learned from this woman every day. And so I think it was stream of consciousness, and the script did sort of just pour out of me. And everyone's always like, did you outline? Did you? And I said, no, I did none of that. It just kind of came out in kind of quick spurts. And it must have been things that I needed to deal with in my own life in many ways. And that's where it came from.
It was sort of an organic process, just came out.
This one, yes. I think that the next time, I think I'm going to try to do it the right way. But this one, yes, was very organic.
Molly, as sort of an expert connoisseur of the teen coming-of-age genre, what stuck out to you about this story in particular?
Are you saying that I'm the teenage Buddha?
You're saying that.
I do say that. I either say I'm the teen Buddha, people want to have me in their movie if there's teenagers involved and just touch my belly and it'll bring good luck. So what do I think?
Stuck out about this film that resonated with you in terms of the coming-of-age genre space?
What really stuck out, I think, for me was the fact that I've played a lot of moms, which makes sense because I'm of that age and I'm a mom. And mostly the moms are really there to service the male story. It's either servicing the husband, the boyfriend, the son, and this was different. She was salty and not always so nice. And she's going through her own thing. And I liked the fact that she had this very complete storyline. And I also thought it was interesting to have somebody who people have grown up with be in this situation. There's been people that have known me forever. And I think being able to watch somebody go through that, they've already gone through their adolescence with me, so now, they're going through their midlife crisis with me. It makes sense.
And just a note, we did, every time we would have breakfast on set, we would rub Molly's belly before we stepped on set every
I
morning.
demanded it. It was in my contract.
Yeah, it is a bit of like a darker, more sort of complex role. This is a woman who is maybe she's at a kind of crisis point in her life. She's not operating as the best mom, the best wife, the best human, but she's trying her best.
She's really trying, and I really think that she's somebody who struggles to get out of bed and put on a brave face for her kids every morning. It's the most she can do. I really didn't wear a lot of makeup. I did my lashes and put my hair back.
I mean, you always have to do your lashes, right?
Always have to do the lashes, but I feel like that was a little bit like her thing. As long as I get my lashes done, I can function. And if I have my lashes done, that means I won't cry too much. And I just think that it works for this woman. She's really, really trying. And it just seems more real to me. And I think people who seem more real are always more moving, for me anyway, because I relate to them and they seem like a real human being.
You touched on this a little bit, but we've seen a lot of the boy comes of age films, right? But what struck me about this is that I sort of saw it as a solve to some of the blind spots of the genre, because it did invest deeply in these female characters. They weren't just sort of ancillary parts feeding into Howie's sort of journey. Talk to me about developing those stories and why it was important for you as well to include those and to bring those to life.
I mean, when I was writing it, I always felt like, Howie was my lead protagonist. But as the movie came together and we shot it and we were in the edit room, we started to realize we had these other rich stories and we wanted to give it as much time as his story. And it's been really nice to see how people have reacted to these women in different times in their life and how quite possibly they all could have been Molly, and that could have been Molly as a teenager, and that could have been Molly when she was, in her 30s and so on. So there's kind of that nice thing woven in between it.
Well, I remember when it first started, you told me that the parents' parts weren't really that as significant.
Yeah,
you were thinking
yeah.
about it more as a coming-of-age story.
Yeah.
And as you were writing, you kept getting interested by what was going on.
I mean, I think that's true as well. And I think, the script that, started going out to people isn't always the script that you shoot. And so we did have a short development process. And I think that was one of the issues that, well, wait a second, there's this really interesting relationship and why is it in the background? And so I made a specific effort to put these two people in the forefront. And I think while we were shooting as well, I started writing more scenes too, because I just, especially because of Molly and Brian's chemistry as well, I think, why am I turning the camera away? There's something really wonderful happening here. So I think, again, as we were shooting, that was happening.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy working with Brian? You guys,
I
you were
loved it.
so angry and upset at each other, but I felt I knew
have
you
to
were
love
having a
each
good
other to
time at
hate
the
each
end.
other.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, we got along so well from the very beginning, and I feel like it really helped with the heartbreak of them trying to fix it, and they can't, because yes, you really are really heartbroken when you care deeply about someone, and I feel like our chemistry was such that we just had this history, even though we met, I think, right before we started this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I think the three of us went out to dinner one
Once.
night before we started shooting.
Yeah.
So that was like the only time we didn't get to really have a rehearsal period.
And then Brandon, who plays Howie, I also met him, I think maybe just a day or so before, and he also, we had incredible chemistry. And he's an amazing person. I mean, he's an amazing
he might be a
actor.
robot because he really
perfect.
Yeah, because take after take, he's really, and we joke about it now and he'll joke about it too. Like the kid you see on camera is very different than the kid you see off camera. And so that's just a testament to his acting.
He's very funny.
Yeah, he's
I want
funny
to
and
see him
talks
in-
a lot.
Yeah, and in OA, he plays this very serious character who I think goes through a lot of trauma, right, in his life. And this is, he's pretty serious and brooding. And in real life, he's just very funny. He has a great sense of
Very,
humor.
very chatty.
Very smart. and he sort of took care of Sam McCarthy, who played his little brother, who I feel like I know because he's Andrew McCarthy's son.
Yes, tell me how did that come about? I was reading through the Wikipedia and I was like, what?
It's funny because it wasn't like a PR machine thing. Like we didn't plan it. We got a tape from Sam and he kind of blew us away. And because it was my first film and, we had a low budget, that my producers kept trying to talk me out of hiring a minor. A lot of times you'll hire 18 plus actors so you have more time with them on set. And I couldn't find anyone like over 18 who was going to play 14. It just wasn't happening.
Something that happens to the face, I think.
Yeah, they become an adult. So
the vulnerability, because I was the age that I was playing when I was a teenager, and Anthony Michael Hall, and you can see it in our face. Like we just have this babiness that's gone within 2 years.
I agree.
Somebody else.
So Sam auditioned, and then we made him audition a couple times, and he just walked in the room, and we were like, that kid's blowing us away. And I remember being nervous to tell Molly, because I was like, oh my God, what's she gonna say? And we were at a fitting, and I kind of just tried to like casually bring it up, and I was like, oh, by the way, and Molly's like, oh, that's cool, and we just like moved on with the fitting, and I was so thankful to that because I thought it might be a thing, but it wasn't, and I think she'll say as well, like Sam was the right person for that role. He was amazing, and so it just happened to be a wonderful PR machine thing after the fact.
And it also made me feel, of course, very connected because I had this feeling that I had known him for so long, even though I didn't. But I would look across the set and I would see his eyes, and he has Andrew's eyes.
Yeah, you've had a relationship with those blue eyes for like decades.
Those eyes have driven me crazy for years.
Was Andrew on set at all, or was this sort of a doing his own thing?
No, he wasn't. He was working. I think
he was on set a couple times.
Not when I was there.
No, I don't think so. But there was a couple times where he would like bring Sam to set. And, I'm a big fan, obviously, of Molly and Andrew's movies as well. And I remember this one scene we were doing, and it was an exterior. And so Video Village, where we have the monitors and stuff, was like in a literal broom closet. And I look behind me, and there's like Andrew McCarthy. And I'm like, oh my God, like there's Andrew McCarthy. And then like I turn around again and he's like gone. So it was like the ghost of Andrew McCarthy, but it was very cool. And, we had some nice kind of like, he's directing now. So we got to have some of those like nice director chats and everything. And so that was cool.
Yeah, it's such a nice little like behind the scenes thing that you wouldn't think of, right? Yeah. A lot of people have compared the film to like a Lady Bird type of film because of the subject matter. But while I was watching, I really was drawing comparisons in my mind to Wildlife, Paul Dano's film, because that as well commits so deeply to the perspective of a young boy who's watching his parents' marriage crumble. So tell me about balancing, like keeping that interiority of Howie's journey, but also creating space for the parents and the classmates to have their moments as well.
I mean, that's a wonderful movie as well, and I think that's like very specifically POV, like, very much leaning in that direction. And it's not like the funniest movie in the world, so I think like, but I understand the comparison, and I think with my film specifically, I think sometimes in my regular life, I like to deal with like heavy things, maybe to a fault, with comedy, because it just makes me feel better. So I think that's why there's that sort of comedy in my film along with the dark stuff. And I also felt like, again, as we started shooting and the movie can change a lot in the edit room, I think it was a conscious decision for us to I think you always as a filmmaker have to decide whose POV this is, because if you start playing with that, you're kind of going to have a messy movie. But we did allow different storylines to happen. We tried to say, whose movie is this? Whose scene is this? But it's very important to know whose POV it is. But we did open it up because we thought those other storylines were really interesting.
It does really feel like an ensemble piece.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, where, like you said, it started in one way, but you really don't feel like one story is more important. They just all feed each other and complement each other, and it's a really strong cast. I should also say that Harley is, I think she's the one person that we haven't mentioned, who plays the young girl who has a crush on Howie in school, and there's this whole storyline about her being slut-shamed, which I think is really beautifully done, and also the way that she handles it. She's really not a victim. I mean, she has been victimized in her life, but the way that she kind of confronts it head on, I think, is great.
Yeah, there's a lot. She
And-
takes agency in that moment,
Yes.
right? And she's like, "No, this is who I am."
Yeah, and I
she
know you
owns
heard this
it.
about me. Yeah, she owns it and uses it as a way to communicate with him. This is what happened to me, and it just seems very real and moving.
I mean, and she also brought so much to that role. I mean, she took it to levels that I like never anticipated, and she just brought so much depth to it when she auditioned with that monologue, and I was like, oh, like this is a very serious monologue. Who knew? And so again, we sort of incorporated what the actors brought to it, and just made the story that much richer.
Watching those detention scenes, I was thinking, is this inspired a bit by a Breakfast
You know,
Puppy type of moment?
There's a writer's note here. They're just in the library because they're excused from gym.
Oh, it's an illness.
It's not really.
yeah,
It's not really
People
detention.
like love being like,
Yeah.
Molly Ringwald, it must be detention, but it's they're in there because they're both excused from gym, and he
He has
Quarantine
the
together.
stays
Too
too long,
long.
and she has what was her thing?
she like claimed she had asthma.
Right.
Oh yeah, so she didn't have to go to gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys also didn't shoot the film too far from here. I was watching, and I was like, "Oh, that's Tompkins Square Park. Oh, that's and
It was not Tompkins Square Park. It
Well,
was.
the farmers market was.
Oh, the
at
farmers
end,
market
yeah,
was.
but
That's
everything
right.
else was
Yeah.
Brooklyn. Yeah.
and New York City really, I thought, provided this connective tissue for a lot of the characters' journeys. Like, we're on the bus, we're seeing people in the street. So, what was that like to film in the city?
A complete nightmare because it was like the blizzard of 2017. I thought I was making a spring movie with a lot of greens and trees, and that was not the case, evidently. But I always like to tell this one story because, so we had a lot of bus scenes. So of course, when you shoot a movie, you shoot out all your locations. So you do the brownstone at one time, you do the school, and so we had all our driving scenes at the same time. And because it was the blizzard of 2017, the city pulled our permits. And it wasn't just us, it was everyone. And it wasn't like shooting permits, it was just like you can't drive on the street because it's unsafe. And so my locations manager, Mike McGrail, who I just can't say enough about. Like, he never came to me with a problem. He would say, we lost this location, but, like, there was always a but we have this. And so I'm so thankful for that. So he said, the city pulled our permits, but the Lowe's parking lot will allow us to drive around in circles to get our shot. And I first was like, oh, that sucks. But then, like, I think if you, like, sit and analyze my movie and, like, look through the windows during those scenes, you'll be like, oh, wait, that doesn't look at all like a street. But no one will ever notice. It'll be, like, between us. But it was this amazing thing. Yeah, and the entire world, because the whole world's watching right now. But it was just one of those amazing things. And, you know, thankfully, you just find your way around it. And then I wrote this whole thing of, you know, Jemima has this, like, you know, she has this roof garden, and it's so plush and beautiful. And then we're like, can I swear on AOL Build?
Yes, swear
So
away.
I was like, oh shit, the snow is covering everything. And so, you know, again, like, we had to add some dialogue, but at the end of the day, it ended up being, like, absolutely beautiful. And they looked like they were crying because they were freezing. And so it, like, really worked. And, you know, I'm thankful for it now, but it was really hard.
It also gives a certain feeling to the film too. I think the cold. You know, it doesn't feel really like a springtime movie. There's something about the cold that I think, you know, it's true. Everybody does look like, you know, they're crying, or, you know, like there's something, you know, we have our coats on, we're very self-protective. It just works.
A little chilly.
And it still is a very beautiful movie. I think the way it's shot and
Yeah, my DP, Adam Bricker, did a phenomenal job.
What was it like, I mean, to make that jump into the director's space, having, you know, all this experience on set as in the art department for so many years? What was that like?
I mean, it's twofold. I think that I'm the type of person who just has, like, opinions anyway on aesthetics. So I think that's always been a natural thing as well, and that worked very well sort of in the director's space. But what it also, I realized when I think I was having panic attacks and was, you know, in fetal position in my linen closet, like, the day before we were going to shoot. But, like, once I got there, I was like, oh, yeah, I know this. And so I felt like it gave me all the experience that I needed when it was time to direct. And my dad always says, like, it's just another tool for your tool belt. And, you know, I felt
Such a
like
dad thing to
it's
say.
such a dad thing
I
to
think my
say.
dad has said that as well.
Shout out Joel Miller. But so that's how I felt. It was a real thing. I just felt like, oh, all this stuff that I wasn't sure where it was going has culminated to this.
Yeah, Molly, I've loved the writing that you've done, and
you.
I've heard that you're also working on a screenplay coming up.
Just finished it.
Congratulations.
You're gonna read it.
Is directing something you might want to
Yeah,
tackle one day?
I'm gonna direct this one.
Oh, wow.
This will be my directorial debut.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, but it took a while to find the project that I wanted to do that with. And I've worked on a bunch of different things, but this I've been passionate about, and of course it's YA. Can you imagine me of all people? I come back around and it's YA. But that
Seems like a perfect fit.
But it just tells well, now I have a 15-year-old daughter. And so, I always like to write about something that I'm obsessed by, and whether it's something I'm going through my life, and now I'm seeing it from a completely different point of view, and yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Do your children have any aspirations of being an actor and going to Hollywood?
My daughter really wants, she read the book that it's based on, and she really wants one of the parts, not the lead, but she wants this other part. And when she started talking to me about it, I said, just don't tell me that, because I'm writing it and I don't want to have any picture. But she's so wily and has talked to me about it so much that it got to where I was seeing her face as I was writing it.
Petitioning at home.
It's really good. Yeah. I mean, she she knows how to get a part, So it's
That's also a nice way to write as well, because you're thinking of a specific person.
It's true, and I have a voice, and I know that voice, and I know, and I don't know whether or not, she'll be of the age where she can play the character. She might age out of it, at a certain point. But
She's 23. What happened?
But I love her enthusiasm, and also it was while I was writing it, it gave me a lot of confidence, because at a certain point, you're like, well, this speaks to me, but I don't know if it's going to speak to somebody who's that age. Maybe and she was always there, just sort of my cheerleader as it was going on. It's been really nice.
What about the young adult genre keeps on pulling you back?
Keep pulling me back. I try to get out. I don't really know. Well, the only thing I can think of is the fact that, well, like I said, it's the fact that I think I have a teenage daughter, and I'm just really interested in her. I mean, I have 2 other kids too, and I'm interested in them, but there's I
Not
guess
as much, though.
No, that's not true. We both have a son named Roman, by the way, so hi to our Romans. I don't know. I think it's something about how the feelings are so strong. There's all these coming of age, throughout your life. I don't think there's just one coming of age. You go into different ages, and they all seem significant, but there is something about that particular time when you are becoming something, that you're in progress and you're changing so much, from week to week, to month, I don't know. There's something that's intriguing in a whole different way, because I'm looking at it now as an adult, as opposed to being in it as a kid.
Well, I'm all here for movies and films that champion young people and champion young people's voices, so I can't wait to see that project. We have to let you both go, unfortunately, but everyone, remember to catch All These Small Moments coming out in theaters tomorrow, and then it's available for digital download on Friday. Let's give it up for Melissa and Molly, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You.
Thank you, Cole.